Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with the Limp, and I'm here with just a quick preview of Steel Inferno that is releasing very soon for War in the East 2, Gary Kursk's game. Now, I had a series that I had started on this, the Dummy Plays, check out, it's funny. Only problem is they upgraded my account to a press account, and when they did that, I lost my original game. I made some mistakes when I was upgrading the account, so I think that's what caused it to happen. So I am going to restart that one, though, try to redo what I did, and I will pick up again on turn 2 of that. So we are going to finish that one out. But in this video, I just wanted to show you guys really quick these scenarios that get added here in Steel Inferno. So we'll go over here to pick campaign, and you see the list is tremendously bigger than it used to be. Now I've got a list written down here so I make sure I keep track of which ones were in it and which ones have been added, because a lot has been added. Something interesting, I did pull up the entire campaign, and my God, it is huge. Takes a little while just to get everything started. So we're definitely going to take a look at that one later on. But we had seen before both the 1941 campaign, the no early end, and the 1941 just campaign that can have an early end. Added to that, we now have 2 other campaigns. We have the 1943 campaign, and you see it's different here. So the 41 here in no early end, you're playing starting player with Axis. Here's Axis. I thought you were playing the Soviets. Maybe I am wrong on that one. Regardless, 43, we do have the Axis, and in this one, it is having staged a dramatic recovery from the loss of the 6th Army at Stalingrad, and that was just so many stupid historical mistakes, really big strategic blunder, but that's neither here nor there. And the Soviet winter offensive, the Axis has built up at its armored forces to exploit the strategic opportunity offered by the salient around the city of Kursk, which, if you know any history, is one of the biggest tank battles that ever existed. Awesome battle to get played out. Delays in the arrival of the new tanks have allowed the Soviets to build strong fortifications around the salient. So the overview for the scenario is the Axis has 2 choices. It can risk its precious armor to cut off the Kursk salient and destroy a major portion of the Red Army, or conserve the army and look for another opportunity to inflict major losses on the Red Army. Action points per turn, 35. Looks like plenty to do. The Soviets have huge reserves, including highly mobile tanks and mechanized corps, which can be used to protect the salient, or they can use them in offensive operations, but they're going to be restricted by the logistical constraints that they have at the time. So, sounds like a really cool scenario to play out. Kursk, like I was saying, huge battle, awesome stuff, biggest tank battle ever. The Nazis, the bad guys, had been coming out with a lot of new tanks. I think the Tiger was really getting ramped up around this time frame when it was being introduced. I think the Tiger 1, not the King Tiger. That and the Elephant. I always loved the Elephant as a big tank, but I know they had problems with that one. They didn't have the tools needed to keep them in repair, and I think they abandoned a lot of them at Kursk, and they didn't have that many to begin with. So a lot of them, the Tigers and the Elephants, I believe, would have mechanical issues. They wouldn't be able to repair them, so they'd have to leave them behind, try to scuttle them, and bug out. Really cool stuff. Looking forward to trying that one out. We also have here the 1944 campaign, which again, you are playing as the Axis. It says turn 1 starts in May of 1944 and the end is July 4th of 1945. Again, Axis. And with the just completed Soviet conquest of the Crimea and the recent breakout of the 1st Panzer Army from the Kamnets-Podilsky pocket, the rebuilding of the 6th, 19th, and 25th Panzer Divisions became necessary. After an unusually mild and combat-intensive winter, Both Axis and Soviet units contain large numbers of damaged armored fighting vehicles and overall low strength. The Germans couldn't really rebuild at that point. The Soviets had the ability to rebuild, but it was going to take a while because it was so far away. They had, picked up their warehouses and moved them inland as the Nazis came in. So they could rebuild their forces, but they had to rebuild them and then transport them to where they needed to be. For this one, the Axis are facing an imminent invasion of Northwest Europe and an Eastern Front that is lacking reserves and strong in very few places. Should the Axis absorb the Soviet summer offensive in their fortified line, or should they shorten the front and move farther west? They get 35 action points per turn. So for the Soviet player, they have options for the timing of their 1944 summer offensive. The main blow can fall on Army Group Center, or a massive attack can be made by the 1st Belarusian and 1st Ukrainian fronts on AG North Ukraine, terminating at the Baltic and isolating both AG North and AG Center. The timing of the assault on Romania, Romania is also a consideration, and they get 25 APs per turn. And again, I'm just going over the scenarios that get added as part of the Steel Inferno. We also have here AGA Part 2, and AGC that get added as well. I'm like, oh, case blue down there looks so cool. All right, so we have AGA and AGA Part 2. So 1 and 2 going on this. We got the race for the Caucasus. And again, you're playing as the Axis. And I think for Steel Inferno, all of them you play as the Axis. Historical overview, again, 25 July 1942, Rostov-on-the-Don has fallen to Army Group A, and Phase 1 of the Operation Blue is concluded. Operation Edelweiss begins with the 1st Panzer and 17th Army, supported by the Romanian forces, driving into the Caucasus region to capture the oil-rich region and secure Germany's fuel needs for the duration of the war. The Soviets are disrupted and scattered, but quickly reorganizing, and reinforcements from the Trans-Caucasus Front along the border with Iran are being sent to stabilize the lines. Cool stuff. The overview, Axis player, they have to clear the Caucasus region and secure the Black Sea ports and capture all the oil regions around Grozny and Baku. They have to hold Army Group B's right flank along the Kalmuk steppe and possibly capture the vital port at Astrakhan. Hope again I'm saying that right. Looks like this is going to be a smaller scenario because it's just 10 APs per turn. Let's see, how many turns? It's July 25, 1942 through November 20th, 1942. Yeah, so we're looking at a handful of months that this scenario takes place. Soviet player, reorganize the shattered remnants and rebuild North Caucasus Front into a capable force, and they have to defend Astrakhan, Grozny, Baku, and the vital Black Sea. Basically, they have to defend everything that Axis have to try to take out, and they're only getting 5 APs per turn. And it seems like on most of these, they are suggesting to increase the challenge, the level to challenging in the scenario. I think that is said on all of these. Nope, it's not said on part 2. So it's just some of them. Let's see. Not that campaign. Yeah, okay. It's just a handful that they are suggesting to increase the difficulty level on. AGA Part 2, the Kuban Bridgehead, is also another new one that gets added in Steel Inferno. Another one that's a little bit smaller. Turn 1 is 1, ends on 36 turns, so February 1, 1943 to October 10, 1943. And in this one, you are playing as the Soviets. Overview real quick. February 1943, the 6th Army at Stalingrad is hanging on by their fingernails, and all attempts to relieve the pocket have failed. The Soviet 42-43 counteroffensive in the south has pushed back Army Groups A and B nearly to their starting lines at the beginning of Operation Blue. The 17th Army holds another army-sized pocket in the Kuban region of the Caucasus. Hitler has declared that the 17th Army will remain in place in order to relieve the pressure elsewhere on the battered southern front, but has promised generous air support to keep the 17th Army fighting, which was, that air support didn't do crap. Will the 17th Army face the same fate of the 6th Army, or be able to hold off the Soviet forces long enough? Now it's up to you to decide. For the Soviet player, you have to support the amphibious landing on the Black Sea to help unhinge the strong Axis defenses at a place that begins with N and ends in K. Destroy the 17th Army and liberate Kuban before the Axis have the opportunity to withdraw across the Kursk Straits. Drive into Crimean Peninsula and liberate Sevastopol. And it's only 2 action points per turn. Interesting. I noticed at the bottom of this one says they do not recommend playing against the AI. That's kind of interesting. I have to play that to figure out why. Axis player. Hold on to the Kuban as long as possible. Use your generous Luftwaffe resources to gain air superiority. Destroy the Soviet amphibious landing foothold near the Nov or S something. Preserve the 17th Army so that it continue to fight, and they get 3 APs per turn. Okay, so we also have AGC. Kutuzov to Bagration, 43 to 44. It is a 38 turn scenario. Starts in July 12, 1943, and it carries on almost a year into April 2nd of 1944. And in this one, again, you're going to be playing as the Soviets. This is 12 July 1943. The Allies have landed at Sicily, and Operation Citadel has been canceled. German losses during the Kursk offensive have been high. With the redeployment of forces to Italy and southern France, the front is spread thin. At the Wehrmacht's weakest moment, the Soviets are poised to launch their counteroffensive. Operation Kutuzov against AGC. The goal is to capture Orel and annihilate the German 9th Army, causing the collapse of Army Group Center. Luftwaffe 6 has been flying non-stop since the offensive began in early July and has enjoyed tremendous success where the German Wehrmacht has not. But the Luftwaffe is running short on fuel and air crews are exhausted, while fresh Soviet air units are being committed into the fray. The beginning of the front-wide Soviet offensive to liberate the motherland has begun in earnest. Awesome. Playing as Soviet, liberate Orel, Smolensk, and Bryansk, conduct deep operations to encircle and destroy Army Group Center, breach the Panther Line along the Danube River, and liberate Minsk for the Kursk. They get 5 APs per turn. Axis have to hold off the Soviet onslaught. And that's pretty much their goal in this scenario. Hang on and hold your position along the Panther Line. Hold these cities that the Soviets have to capture and prevent the collapse of Army Group Center. So APs, 5 per turn again. Now, something awesome that I am definitely very excited about is the fact that they have 2 versions of Case Blue that get added to this expansion pack. Freaking awesome. Both of them, obviously, you're going to be playing as the Axis, and this is a 34 turn scenario. Both of them 34 turns? Yeah. Both of them 34 turns, starting in July 25th, 1942 to March 19th, 1943. And historical blur, phase 1 of Operation Blue is complete. The Soviet Southwest Front is shattered and the 6th Army is in pursuit as it approaches the banks of the Don River west of Stalingrad. 2nd Army is holding Bryansk and securing the left flank of Army Group B. Army Group A has just captured Rostov, is launching Operation Edelweiss to drive into the Caucasus and capture the rich oil fields. Italian, Romanian, and Hungarian forces are supporting the effort, while Soviet strength along with its desperation is building. The Soviets must build strength, and launch a counterattack of their own. Case Blue is huge. It's so awesome that they have this in here in Steel Inferno. I cannot wait to try that one out. Axis player, hold the river, anchored at Voronezh. Capture and hold Stalingrad. Gotta get Stalingrad. Capture the Caucasus, need the oil. Capture and hold the Black Sea ports. Prepare for the Soviet counteroffensive and hold your gains for the forthcoming 1943 offensive. This one was the big pushback in between Hitler and Stalin. Stalin declared his, not one step further back. You must hold Stalingrad at, all costs, blah, blah, blah. Hitler was like, nope, we're going to take it. And he failed because he's a moron. Soviet player. Reorganize and strengthen the shattered fronts. Hold Stalingrad at all cost. Throw as many men as you have to into the meat grinder to keep them from pushing through. Prevent Axis forces from capturing the oil fields in the Caucasus. Prepare for the counterattack. Push the Axis forces back, and 5 AP per turn. The Axis player gets 10. And yeah, I know I'm going through a lot of these, but they have added a lot of scenarios. I'm trying to go quick, but I want to read it out to you guys, let you know what you are getting in the expansion pack. So, yep, we have the drama on the Danube, 2 versions of it, the 44 AI and then the 44 H2H, which I'm assuming is head-to-head. So this one you were playing as a Soviet. The other one you can play as a Soviet, but I believe it's to be played, head-to-head. Historically, late summer 1944, or real quick, it is a 37-turn game. August 1944, May 1945. Late summer 1945, Soviets launched their Kislev offensive against Army Group South Ukraine, which results in the collapse of the Romanian army. The 6th and 8th armies are nearly destroyed in the process. Soviet forces quickly entered into Hungary and liberated Belgrade. German forces desperately tried to withdraw its remaining forces from Greece as the line of communications through Serbia and Macedonia were threatened by the Bulgarians, switching sides to the Allies. The Germans rushed reinforcements into Hungary and tried to suppress the escalating Yugoslavian partisan threat. So, as the Soviet player, you need to smash Army Group South. You ever notice in almost all these new scenarios, it's always smash this, smash that. I like it. It's Hulk style. I love it. Smash Army Group South Ukraine. Force the Romanians to capitulate and bring Bulgarians to the Allied side. Prevent German forces from escaping from Greece into Yugoslavia. Liberate Belgrade and transition Yugoslavian partisan forces into a conventional army. Capture Budapest and Vienna. 10 APs per turn. Axis player, withdraw as much combat power from Romania as possible to help with the defense of Hungary and Yugoslavia. Secure land corridors in Serbia and Macedonia to allow units arriving from Greece through turn 11 to withdraw north. Maintain link between Thessaloniki and Katerini, so forces from Greece can be supplied while moving north. So keep your supply lines open. Maintain lines of communication with the Balkans by clearing out partisan centers of resistance and build up Croatian forces to be the main line of defense in Yugoslavia. Defend Budapest and Vienna, both sides getting 10 APs per turn. So it says this version of the scenario is intended for play against the Soviet AI, and it's different from the head-to-head version. This scenario does not include the Allied Balkan Air Force. Instead, several events are used to represent the impact of the Allied aircraft on operations in and around Yugoslavia, and we do not recommend playing this scenario against the Axis AI. So, again, like I was saying earlier, there's the AI version and the head-to-head version in here. All right, we had to skip a few because those are some of the original ones in the original game. Next up is the Road to Karelia. The Road to Leningrad is part of the original War in the East. And this one, 16 turns, July 22nd, 1941 through October 11th of 1941. So rather shorter scenario. And it says Operation Barbarossa begins, and this scenario follows Army Group North and the Finnish forces deployed in Karelia and Lake Ladoga. Army Group North conducts its blitzkrieg through the Baltic states and drives on its objective at Leningrad, birthplace of Lenin's communist utopia. Mannerheim's Finnish forces open up their own offensive on 10 July to recapture the lands lost in the Winter War of 1940. Finnish forces are strong and capable, but are uncomfortable and unprepared for a siege of Leningrad proper. All right, so for the Axis player, you have to defeat Northwest Front in the Baltic states, isolate Leningrad and conduct a siege, recapture disputed Finnish lands from the Soviets in the Karelian Isthmus and eastern territories of Lake Ladoga. 5 APs per turn. Soviets, you gotta hold on. Preserve the Northwest fronts and build defenses to hold Leningrad. Basically, don't let them take anything from you. Get 7 APs per turn. And down here at the bottom, it talks about which forces are allowed to do certain things, that Axis units in Finland should not be moved by sea or air. No German units outside of Finland should be moved to Finland. No Axis units operating from Finland should launch attacks at Soviet units in the Leningrad region until both Leningrad city hexes are Axis controlled. It says the Control M key can be used to highlight the Leningrad region. All right, so the last one that we are going over for the ones getting added in Steel Inferno is the Western Front of Ukraine, 43 to 44. And this one is 25 turn scenario. We've got November 3rd, 1943 to April 25th, 1944. Starting player Soviets. Says historically, Manstein's Army Group South and Army Group A are battered and exhausted, with the majority of their losses since Kursk not having been replaced. Many mighty German infantry and panzer divisions are no more than regimental Kämpfergruppen. The Soviet juggernaut rolls all over in its path, as it can take any objective that it wants as long as it can take the casualties. And that pretty much was the Soviet strategy. The Axis forces in the Crimea are cut off and have been ordered by Hitler to hold at all costs. Stupid. Defeat and annihilation seem inevitable, but hope remains with the arrival of elite, fresh German reserves consisting of the 1st Panzer, the Leibstarte SS Panzer, and the 2nd Fallschirmjäger divisions. As the Soviet 3rd Guard Tank Army burst out of its bridgehead northwest of Kiev, the 4th Panzer Army is near collapse. Will the newly arrived elite German forces stem the tide? So in this one, the Axis player has to try to hold the Dnieper line and Kiev, utilize reserves to launch strong counterattacks to throw the Soviets off guard, hold Crimea, keep Army Group South intact through the winter so that it can be rebuilt in late spring. 7 APs per turn. Soviet player, liberate Kiev, Sevastopol, and Lvov. Knock the Romanians out of the war for good. Use mobile deep operations to penetrate German lines and encircle German forces. Destroy Army Group South, and they get 15 APs per turn. So yeah, Steel Inferno adds all sorts of different scenarios, huge specific areas of the war. Any part of this, if you like the Eastern Front, jump into it. I mean, if you're a war gamer and you like the Eastern Front, more than likely you've already got this. But if you don't already have it, then this is definitely the time to jump into it. This is making me want to break out some of my other Eastern Front games, stuff like Thunder in the East, which you guys know if you've watched the channel is one of my absolute favorites. Oh, and check this out. My save game is actually still there. I thought it had been taken out, but it is still there. So we will be able to carry that one back on. That's outstanding. But I wanted to show you guys one thing specifically. Let's see. Here we go. Let's load this up real quick. It'll take a second. Just for giggles, I went ahead and started up the whole campaign, the 1941 campaign, and let it load. And good grief, the turn was so long. I had to wait for all the German forces to act, and this is the beginning of the Soviet airplaning phase. And I just wanted to see how big it was. And dear God, I couldn't imagine it would take forever just to get through a turn. Just one turn of this, and this thing I think is a few hundred turns. It is one of the biggest, most in-depth video games I've ever even considered playing. I mean, the war gamer's war game, creme de la creme, just top of the line. You can see over here we got German forces. They push through. They've actually encircled a whole mass of the Soviet forces right in this region, so I have to break them out because they are all in danger of being cut off and overwhelmed. Maybe open up here so supplies can get in. Otherwise, that pocket will get destroyed. Another small pocket up here where German forces pushed around. I think this is the Army Group North area where they pushed over and cut off this group, but it extends all the way up here near Finland, all the way down here near the Black Sea. And you can see forces going on down here. It's like all of these games, all of these scenarios combined into one, because that's basically what it is. It's amazing. It's amazing. This is an experience that I can't wait to try. But what I want to do is I want to take and play through both of the introductory scenarios, doing my dummy learns thing to kind of figure out the game a little bit more. When I have a better idea of it, then I'm going to sit down with the whole scenario and just play it out however long it takes me. Just see how good or bad I end up doing. Does Hitler end up wiping it out very quickly because I'm a moron, or can I hold back that evil Axis tide? I have to see how it plays out. I'll tell you what, I think by the time I finish this, my kids will probably be in college. All right, but that's it for now. Definitely check out Steel Inferno. It is releasing very, very soon, and I am hoping to have something else to show you guys coming up from Slytherin and Matrix Games, and it is Third World War related. Hoping, crossing my fingers, I might be able to show you guys that soon as well. All right, that's going to be it for this one. Y'all take care. I'll catch you in the next one.